Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics live Q&A on Tuesday night, the 30th of April, ahead of round 8. I'm your host, Bails, and you can find me at Bails DT across all the socials. And yeah, if you are watching live across YouTube or Twitter, make sure you get your questions in the live chat, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. But joining me, as always, is my co-host and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Tim, mate. How are you?
Pretty good, mate. Pretty good. Feeling much better this week than I was last week.
Yeah. No, mate. Obviously, we spoke to you on Sunday, and as you're saying, I was trying not to be too smug after hitting the top 1,000, so I was trying to keep it low key. But how's the last couple of days been for you, reflecting on a pretty chaotic round 7?
I was talking more about my not being well, like sick health wise. But yeah, no, I felt much worse this week, fantasy wise, than I did last week. But yeah, look, just digesting, right? Just digesting. What is it? It's only Tuesday, right? So, yeah. It feels like actually we've got ages between the next game after last week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's sort of a long week last week, and then we're back to Thursday through to Sunday, and we got Sunday night footy as well this week. So that means our round review will be a little bit later this week, but we'll let everyone know what time we're going live later in the week. But joining us is a very special guest. He is the 100th ranked coach in fantasy at the moment. It is Mr. Smugness, as he's calling himself on the podcast. It is DC, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, guys. How can I not be after the weekend?
Yeah, mate, having a very good season so far. So just want to talk to us about I was just chatting to you just before we went live about you're saying ranked about the just outside the sort of 20-odd thousand, mate, about 23K after round 1. So just talk to us sort of how you've been able to sort of work your way up sort of top 1,000 for a few weeks, and now you're top 100. So just let us know how you've gone to start the season.
Yeah, round 1 was my worst round. I'm sure as it was for a lot of people. It was a bit of an odd round to start with. Round 2, I had a good round and jumped up to about 4,000, I think, from memory, and then was into the 1,000 the week after that, and I've sort of just been creeping up since then. I had 1 week where I dropped back about 50 spots, but I think probably just my lack of a really bad round so far has meant that I've been able to keep moving up pretty consistently. So hopefully that can continue.
Yeah, exactly, mate. It's been we got plenty of issues. As I know you said on the pod as well, you would like up that trade boost would be pretty handy for a lot of coaches this week in fantasy. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So we've got to try and do with what we've got. So we'll run through a couple of issues before we get through the listener questions. So.
Hey, do you mind if I ask a couple of questions, DC?
Yeah.
DC, who do you reckon your picks of the year are so far, and who are your spuds?
I think my ranking is still largely on the back of a pretty good starting team. It's probably the best starting team I've picked since my hat year. I've actually made a couple of dud trades. I was working out last night. I think I've traded in and then traded out a handful of players already. So maybe that's a bit of a lesson as well, is if you're not happy with a player you've traded in, sometimes you do have to flick them. But yeah, I mean, I started Bonner. I started a lot of the popular guys now that have gone pretty well, but they were reasonably unique as starting picks. So starting Bonner was a big one. Managed to hit on most of the rookies. Started guys like Sheasel. Wangan and Miller has been a little bit of a point of difference, and I think he had a big round 2 game from memory, and that kind of started me moving up pretty quick. And then I think it's also the guys I haven't started. So I didn't start Williams. I didn't start Bont. I didn't start Dacos. I switched Grundy to Cherry after round 1 as well. So yeah, I've kind of I've picked some good players, but also avoided some guys that have caused some pain.
Awesome, thanks, man.
No worries. Beautiful. Just a couple of issues coming from the weekend. So I'll go to the sort of the most recent one that we heard. So there's a few people on Twitter that were talking about both Rowan Marshall and Jack Steele on Channel 7 in Melbourne. Apparently, it was said that Steele was not able to train with the main group due to a knee injury, and Marshall is also in doubt with his own knee issue. So DC, we obviously don't like trading premiums and everything like that. And Jack Steele, we've seen this before. We saw it last year. It was painful as an owner myself, owning him and plenty of other people out there. And Marshall as well, when they've got a Campbell, they've got like even a Jack Hayes, something that could come in and support. Where do you sit with Jack Steele and Ryan Marshall? And are they trade outs for you? Are you sort of waiting to get some more information? Are you maybe wanting to watch a week with easy matchup? What are you thinking with those two?
They're definitely not trade outs. I think in the fantasy community, we probably get a little bit of hysteria sometimes when players miss training. And we also need to remember it's a Tuesday. It's not Friday, a day before the game. If we're hearing guys aren't training at the end of the week, that's when I would start to get a little bit concerned. But we know that Steele's obviously had a bit of a knee knock. We know that Marshall had that knock on the weekend as well. I'd be almost surprised if they were training today, because why would you risk them early in the week if they're a little bit sore? Yeah. I think the public probably don't realize how many players don't train fully during the week, because there's a lot of training sessions that are closed to the public anyway. To me, it's just pretty normal management of a niggling injury like that. And if we traded out a player every time you had a niggling injury like that, then we'd be trading premiums every week. So if they don't train Friday, or obviously if they're not named, then it's a different story. But they both got through the game. I would assume, unless they pull up really, really poorly this week, they're going to play again this week.
Yeah. And I did actually read in that there was like a little write-up as well saying about that they missed the main training. But I did read, though, that Steele did train in the light session beforehand. So I guess it's maybe a slight positive. He did some sort of work. He just didn't train in the main training session, which is obviously, I think it was open to public and media and stuff like that today that they saw. So, hopefully they're going okay. Tim, are you any differing thoughts, or what about Jack Steele? Maybe obviously we're both owners. Is there any concern for him with you?
Of course, there's a little bit of concern, but I think my favourite thing that DC said was it's Tuesday.
Yep.
Exactly. Let's just hold our horses. Let's just wait and see. We've got a couple of days to go before we got to think about things, and we'll just play. As news comes to hand, right? Make adjustments as news comes to hand.
Yep. Yeah, I think I agree. And they've got easy matchups, and we'll see how the training goes throughout the week. But Tim, obviously another couple of popular rookies that we were chatting about, Darcy Jones and Jordan Sweet. Injury report said that Soldo's out 4 to 5 weeks, and even watch it. We didn't really touch on it on Sunday night either. But watching that game, I thought he reminded me a little bit of that Tim English, Ryan Marshall. He got around the ground, got a few of those +6s, and seemed to be moving really well. And a few people have even said that it wouldn't shock them if a Soldo comes back and Sweet's played that well, that he ends up just staying as the number one ruck. So just talking about Jordan Sweet first, and then Darcy Jones, and are either of those two still on your shopping list, obviously on Tuesday night?
I mean, just from a football perspective, I kind of think I know who I would prefer tapping it down to that midfield. Probably a Jordan Sweet over an Ivan Soldo. But anyway, look, I really like him. I think it's, I'm actually in a position, I do have a bit of cash in the bank. I'm in a position where I can bring both him and not any premium I want, but any premium up to about $9.50 or something along those lines this week. So it would mean he's on the bench for me, which, it does give me the option of maybe swinging him on field for something like a Grundy and putting like a Harry Barnett then into R3. But I don't know. I'm not. I like the cash gen, and I'm just happy with the cash gen for now. Another name to probably throw in the mix as well is James Peatling, who's thrown out a couple of 80s the last couple of weeks. Previously, he had sub-affected scores. I'm just a bit concerned with Darcy Jones and your Taj Woden's really what their scoring ability is going to be like, and ultimately, what that means in terms of cash gen. I can kind of see those guys as guys that kind of just sit there puttering along, 40s and 50s, and they don't generate you too much. And it's still round. It's not Tuesday. It's round 6, right? Or round 7, sorry. And there's a long way to go still. So yeah, I'm really interested in cash gen. the only thing I'm kind of looking at is, okay, well, what will then that enable me to do? So, I don't know, maybe this is helpful for other coaches. I don't know, my advice, well, particularly last week, didn't turn out to be very good. But I'm kind of playing that role of like fading forwards, and I'm running rookies. I'm running 3 rookies in the forward line, but at the same time, I've been upgrading, every single week to what I would consider, primos in certainly the defensive and the midfield line. So I'm just going to keep upgrading my mids. I think these rookies can get somewhere close enough to, a few guys that we've talked about, if not far off it. And I'm going to try and get the points jump in the midfield and keep making cash.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about with Peatling is I'm looking at the Giants lineup here from last week, and 4 of those guys are going to come out this week because it sounds like Cornelio and Taylor, barring sort of any setbacks, they're probably going to play, and Toby Green and Brent Daniels would come into the side. And when I look at it, I look at guys like Peatling, O'Halloran, and then even like a Harvey Thomas, like he's been good, and then Darcy Jones, but a few of those guys got to come out because Toby Green and Brent Daniels are going to be in the forward line. So, again, I worry for Darcy Jones's job security. I don't think he'll be dropped. I think he could be the sub, but there's a chance even like a Harvey Thomas needs to make way, or maybe someone that we sort of don't expect. DC, I don't know what your thoughts are on that whole the Giants list. And maybe if you want, once we've chatted about that, maybe talk to us about Jordan Sweet as well as an option.
I agree with what you're saying. That for sure, I think those 4 guys probably come back in. Darcy Jones played very well, but they're a good team at the moment. And sometimes there's a bit of a case of last one in, first one out. It actually wouldn't surprise me if he misses out. Not because he played poorly, he played really, really well, but you're not keeping the captain and multiple Australian Toby Green out of the side, are you? Brent Daniels has been one of their best players over the last couple of seasons. Pretty underrated, I would say. I think he deserves to come straight back in. As you said, Harvey Thomas has been in the side before him, has been pretty good. Had a couple of quieter games, but the last couple of weeks he's been good too. So it's part and parcel of being a good side. It's probably a good problem for the Giants to have, where they've got that much competition for spots and people are coming in performing. So in some ways, it wouldn't surprise me if Jones misses out just because of the squeeze for spots. So I'd be a little bit cautious about bringing him in, and similar reasons for Peatling. I think the one that's going to affect him the most is Cornelio coming back and taking some of that mid time. So it wouldn't be one for me. He's, I think, 400 and something K from memory as well. So not someone I'd be looking at.
Yeah, and it could be a Cogs or a Ward that is a sub potentially this week. Cog come back, or maybe a Ward sort of played a full game. But but
it's a big game though against the Swans. I think they're probably going to go with their best, most mature bodies. It's going to be wet, going to be contested. Maybe they go one less tall.Maybe that's what they think about. It could be someone like a Riccardi, maybe doesn't play, or a Cadman even. Yeah, so maybe that's what they do, and they actually go an extra small.
Yep. Yeah, no, good point. And then just Jordan Sweet as well. Your thoughts on him? You've talked about going a cherry down to him. Obviously, a few people looked at a Marshall. Could you bring Jordan Sweet on your bench as well as like an R3 and make some cash there? What are your thoughts with Sweetie?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm maybe a bit of an outlier here on my thinking with him. I'm actually not a big fan of putting him on your bench. I'm a much bigger fan of putting him on your ground. If we think that he's going to be out, or he's going to have that number 1 ruck role for 4 or 5 weeks, I've heard a few different podcasts talk about what he might be able to average. Let's say, I think absolute minimum, he's probably a 75-80 over the next 5 weeks. Yeah. As a solo ruck. He's a guy that's averaged well over 100 in the VFL, and he's 2 games in the sample this year. I think he's gone over 110 both games. I just think the only risk with you putting him on field is not being able to get off if he loses his spot when Soldo comes back. That's the only risk, because he's priced at 51. So if you think that his minimum is 75-80, you're still getting 25 to 30 points upside. I think if it was round 1 and we were picking a starting team, so many people would be picking him over Cherry at R2 because to me, or perhaps even having both, because the value there is just undeniable. So that's why I'm pretty keen on going Cherry down to him, because I think Cherry's now priced around 100. He's going to be probably not going up a huge amount from there. And if you're planning to trade him at his buy anyway, you're not getting any advantage from him through the buy rounds. He's got a few tough matchups to come. I just think you can get a serious injection of cash into your team. Basically, if you think of it less about going Cherry down to Sweet and more about, let's say you've got a Dempsey or a Sharp or someone, you're going one of those rookies down to Sweet. You're making money by doing that. You're then generating cash through Sweet. And I would say Sweet is likely to outscore those rookies that you're going down from as well. So he's cheaper. You're generating cash. And then on the other side, you've still got another 400K. So you're then putting 400K on top of another rookie, or effectively on top of being able to use that money to replace Cherry, which gets you a better player there as well. So you're getting sort of a top-of-the-line premium mid, but also getting extra cash in and potentially getting more points on the other side of the trade with Sweet. So I think you need to look at it as a holistic piece. The disadvantage of putting him on the bench is that, yes, you're going to get some cash generation. You might get 200K, say, over the next 4 or 5 weeks if he averages that sort of 80 mark. But then you're also putting an extra 240K on your bench. So I think that the cash generated, yes, it will help you in the long run, but you're taking a points hit in theory over the next 4 or 5 weeks as well. So I'd rather go all out and put him on field, because I think that's where you're going to get best bang for your buck.
Yeah. And I guess the good thing is what coaches can do is plays Thursday night. We've probably got a Barnett or a Red Dot rookie that you can just play on field for the time being. And if Sweet goes well, great, you can trade Cherry out then. But if Sweet puts up a 70 or a 60 or whatever, and you don't want that score, you can maybe always keep Cherry for a week and just have Sweet as your R3 for a week. So there is that sort of, you can do what you're saying there. You can downgrade Cherry, but you can also get that free look at him first and see what he scores. So in that case, what would you want if coaches are considering that? What would you want from him on the Thursday? Would you want 80 plus from him to do the Cherry move out, or would you be happy with a 70, or would you want more?
Yeah, I'd be happy with a 70. Yeah, because if you're still getting that upgrade on the other end, a 70, if you think about it, instead of the rookie, would you be happy with a 70 from a Sharp or someone? I think you would. So I'd be taking a 70 probably from Sweet. And some people might say, you want more than that. You want a 90 or something. That's fine. But I think where you can't go into that trade thinking I'm going to compare Sweet to Cherry, because that's not the comparison. There's 400K difference there.
Yeah, you're essentially going Cherry to a premium midfielder and putting Sweet, a better rookie, on top of another rookie. So, and when you look at it as well, it says sold as at 4 to 5 weeks. So if you're doing that, he misses around 8, 9, 10, and 11. So that would put him at the 4-week mark on a Thursday night against Carlton for Port. I can't see him back for that. So then he's got the bye, right? So you'd imagine that he's going to be back around 14 soldo. So I don't see him coming back for then. And if Sweet plays really well and he's the guy who might be able to help you through around 14, 15, because he's got that good buy. So that is something to note there. So no, he's definitely going to be a popular in for a lot of coaches this week. But we all jump into the questions down. Tim, was there anything else you wanted to quickly touch on before we got through any other listener questions at all? Anything you want to ask DC or myself?
Just one thing I did want to point out at the beginning of all of that, you referred to Jordan Sweet as Sweetie.
Bit of a pet name.
I'm not. Yeah, that's an interesting nickname for him, mate.
I've heard other people say Sweetie, so I'm not the first one. But
Sweetie Pie would probably be taking it too far, I would say.
Yeah. Alrighty, beautiful. Well, we'll get to the questions then, and I'll call him Jordan Sweet from now on. So we got the first question here is from Say. So he's saying, can you guys dive into the Cherry Sweet poach you just on? Will allow me to get Williams to anyone in the games. This is obviously what you talk about, DC. So we probably it also helps him with the round 12 bye. So in saying that, I know you put out a tweet out before about saying that the Green v Sarong is probably the two that you're looking at. Are they probably those, if you're looking at any midfielder in the game, are they probably the two top targets for you?
Yeah, probably. If you're going all the way or close to the top and you want a bona fide top 8, they would probably be the two I'd be keen on. Dawson, maybe if you don't have him. I still think Dacos is a reasonable move if you want to go there. I'm probably okay with watching him for one more week, as long as you can find a way to get him in the following weeks. Bont, I just don't think we've seen enough around that sort of price at the moment. I'm quite happy to just sit on the sidelines and keep watching him. Merritt's the other one. Is just so damn expensive, but that run's brilliant. So if you want a really surefire captain option, maybe you don't have a Sheasel, you don't have a Gorn or someone like that, then yeah, maybe you could go Merritt. But I don't generally like going all the way to the top if I can help it.
Yeah, so you're green over Sarong. That was what you were saying in your tweet.
Oh, yeah, I might change my mind again by the end of the week. But yeah, at the moment, it's probably green. Doesn't help the buys quite as much, but I think probably most people haven't. If you don't have green or you don't have Goulden, you probably don't have any round 12 mids. Dunkley's maybe the only other one. So I think you can probably cover that easily enough. And at the end of the day, we're going to round 12, round 14 and round 15, we're going to have a lot of players on the buys, and I think we need to adjust our thinking a little bit from these early buys where we've only had 2 teams on the buy, maybe only a couple of players missing, through to the fact that we're going to have anywhere from half a dozen to 10, 12 players missing on some of these buys. So, yeah, being able to be comfortable with that is probably something we're going to need to work on over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Wolf, because I got Goulden. A few people jumped on Goulden last week and a Dunkley. It probably makes it a bit harder to get Tom Green because is 2 midfield primos on the same buy. Is that too much for you, especially the early buy? Is that too many for you? Or do you think if you've maybe only got a Sheasel Whitfield and that's it, could you maybe in a different world get a Green and Goulden or Dunkley or whatever and have 2 of those guys in midfield?
Yeah, possibly. Probably. I mean, some people don't have Whitfield. Some, like Nathan, don't have Sheasel, which is hilarious. Some people may not have a Pow, in which case they're probably quite happy about that this week. Some won't have a Cherry, so it depends on what the rest of your team's like. Yeah, you can probably have 2 in the midfield, but I don't reckon you then want 2 in the defensive line. You probably don't want a couple in the forward line as well. So, yeah, just have a think about it. And also think about who you're actually going to trade out on the buy. Because in some cases, you actually want a couple of players to trade out on the buy. So guys like Roberts is a good one. If you've still got McKercher, if you're planning on holding Cherry, you actually want a couple of guys that are on that buy missing that you can trade out on that week, because you don't want to be trading out around 13 or 14 or 15 player when they're playing that week. So try and maximize the players you're going to have in the 13, 14, 15 rounds.
Yeah. Zitters has got this question, Tim. He said he's holding lots of dead weight. Is his priority to bring in scorers or get rid of the dead weight for potential upgrade next week? Have currently got like the likes of Williams, Dempsey, McKercher, Reid, Sanders, Fisher, Dersma, and Lazaro with only 3 primos in the mid. So I guess McKercher, Reid, you're not really counting in those guys because they're scoring quite well at the moment. But what would you be prioritising? Is it still doing the 1 down, 1 up and slowly maybe get rid of the dead weight, maybe look at doing a few of those out at the buys, or would you maybe try and kickstart that cash gen, maybe do a double downgrade or something like that?
No, I always try and stay away from things like double downgrades. Look, once again, I know what he feels like. I kind of feel a little bit the same, but I mean, this is what I'm telling myself. Like you said, so McKercher and Reid, they're not dead weight. They're still scoring all right. And they're actually providing good value for their price, right? Even you could throw maybe a Darcy Wilson into that. Ollie Dempsey, yeah, he's kind of peaked out in price, but he's also been a pretty solid rookie for us as well. I mean, he scored very well in that first quarter last week as well. I still feel like I've got a bit of confidence in him. If you can get off him, you want to be getting off him. But, like he's also someone that could be sitting there on the bench for you or, potentially on field, depending on how your team looks. Look, Williams, once again, I mean, you may have probably held on to him last week. I mean, Fisher, that probably hurt a little bit. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with him this week, so you probably want to wait and see the teams. Who was the other player in there as well? Was there anyone else?
There was like a Dersma as well. There was a few guys in there. Yeah, like Sanders. I'd be trading Sanders as well if you can get him. But again, you could easily go like a Sanders down or Dersma down and Sanders up or something like that and get to maybe a McRae or a Baker or something like that, even the forward line. Or if you've got a bit of cash in the bank, you might be able to get a Dacos or a midfield upgrade in your midfield.
Yeah.
So,
there wasn't really any higher priced players there. Williams was the highest priced player. There wasn't.
Yeah.
Williams so you might not, unless you got cash in the bank, you're not going to be able to get all the way to the, a primo. So yeah, but look, I mean, your McRae's, your Moores, you could definitely do an upgrade to bring one of those players on and push one of those rookies off field.
Yeah. Well, DC, you're not an owner of Zach Williams, but a lot of people are, and they're looking to maybe jump off. But is there a world where you could keep him for this week? Because in a scenario that I've seen in my own team and other people's teams is that they've got a Closier or a Graham on the bench and they might have a Reed or a Caulfield. You can actually loop Williams this week playing on the Friday night. Would you maybe trade out as someone like a Dempsey or a Sharp or something like that and do a downgrade from them and go the other one up and maybe keep Williams for a week just to see how he goes? Or do you think you haven't seen anything from him to suggest he's going to put up a good score and you'd just be happy to cut ties with him?
I'd be okay with both. It probably depends on, as you said, what other issues you've got. If you've got an opportunity to loop, as I explained on the pod this week, I'm always in favour of that. Try and take any advantage you can within the rules. So yeah, if you've got, say, a Reed or someone like that still sitting as your other bench defender, then that allows you to play that sort of move. Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, if he's your biggest issue, and maybe like I traded Dempsey last week, so if you're happy that you're getting out the rookies that are capping out in price, maybe you want to hold Sharp for another week with the matchup against Richmond at the G, then yeah, Williams can absolutely go because he hasn't really shown much at all apart from that 190 he put up a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and the other thing people probably got to keep an eye as well is if they are doing that sweet emergency on the bench, if he didn't score too well and you want to take him and say your defender's your only other red dot, you can't then loop Williams because then you're relying on him. You've got to take a score. So people probably got to be just careful of that as well if they're looping a Williams or something like that. But yeah, I'd be happy to do both as well. Jordan C's got this question, Tim. Matt Roberts to Jordan Sweet and Dempsey to Tom Green. What are your thoughts on those trades? And is it too early to trade Matt Roberts?
It's probably a fraction early, but I don't mind getting off rookies early, particularly for a trade like this. The question, when you're looking at a team from the perspective of one trade, then it's a bit tough, right? But I don't mind it, but I would be asking yourself, what other rookies have I got on field? Because you might be able to upgrade, a Dempsey. And okay, maybe you can't get him all the way to a Tom Green. I'm just trying to think. There are a couple of players priced in that 800 mark, like a Took Miller, probably Nick Davis might be out of range. Parrish, yeah. But if not them, you can definitely go to your McRae's or your Darcy. I was going to say Darcy Moore. Sorry, Dylan Moore.
You're going to say Darcy?
No. But I think that would be a much better trade than upgrading Roberts at this point.
Yeah. Actually, just a question from myself, DC. I'll ask you this one because a few people might look at this as well, doing the cherry to Sweet if they do that move. Would you be trading a guy that's fattened out fully like a Dempsey or a Cadman or something like that? Or if you've got the cash to go like a Jai Clark or a red dot rookie out, would you be maybe getting rid of them and making sure that you've got another green dot that maybe can make some cash as well?
It depends what your trade-in target is. So if you want to get up to a premium mid and trading someone like a Sharp allows you to do that, then yeah, I'd absolutely tick that off. If your forward line is an issue and you've got, say, 3 rookies on field, you want to get down to 2, and you can trade a Clark and get to McRae, or as you said, a Baker, or maybe like Matt Kennedy, and you think he's going to keep that role, then yeah, absolutely trade your worst rookie to get that trade done. That's what I did a few weeks ago to bring in, who was it? Oh, it was the week I did the Tom Stewart trade, and the other side of that trade was moving on Jai Clark instead of McKercher. So you can see that's worked out okay because Jai Clark's then got dropped and McKercher scores a ton. So at the end of the day, you want to have as many good players in your team, and it opens up things like doing loopholes. Because Clark wasn't making any cash because he was being playing as sub anyway, and then he gets dropped. So it's really serving no purpose on your bench. So the more players you have that you can potentially field on the bench, the more options you have.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a good chance Jai Clark comes in because obviously Dangerfield did his hamstring again, and they probably didn't want Cam Guthrie playing the full game last week. So I wouldn't be shocked if Geelong subbed out a Cam Guthrie in the last quarter and brought a Jai Clark on as a sub. So, and if he's bleeding cash, then you might as well jump off. So that's what I was thinking I might be able to do as well. So Lee Humphrey's got this question. Tim, traded Harley Reid out in round 4 to get Flanders in, but can I trade Reid back into my side? And I'm assuming Darcy's lack of forward options.
The favourite for the Brownlow this year, is he now? Sorry. Sorry, what was that? No, you can't trade him back in. You can't trade him back in.
Yeah, mate, I was going to say, it's all good, mate. You'd like Eagles have struggled a bit, so, mate, they've got the like Harley Reid's doing great, mate. Boast as much as you want, because yeah, it is good. So, exceptions has got this question. DC McRae and 260k in the bank, or Dawson and 20k.
I will say, Bales. I will say, watching that game where he kicked 3 goals was watching one of the best games of footy I've seen since the 2018 Grand Final.
Yeah, well, mate, might have to. Well, I think you like him that much that you might have to hit up a friend of the show, Dom Sheed, and get him to get Harley Reid on our podcast, and we can have a bit of a chat there, mate. That could be something we can do.
There you go.
But yeah, DC, McRae 260k or Dawson and 20k. I think I might know where you're going to go with this one. Maybe not.
I mean, if you can do the same side of, if the other part of the trade is the same, again, it probably comes down to a little bit to your team structure. If you're happy that you've got, say, two rookies on field in the forward line, you're happy with the rest of your forward line, and if you've got, say, a Reid and Wilson there, I'd probably go for the mid. If you're struggling, as I said before, you've maybe got a Jackson or someone like that, or you've got the 3 rookies on field in the forward line, then I'd probably look at a McRae. So try and just fix up the weakest parts of your team if you can. I say that, but then I'm trading out Cherry this week, so it's not really the weakest part of my team, is it?
Exactly. Sean's got this question. Tim, rate the rookies in order to get this week from Jake Rogers, who hasn't been someone we actually spoke about on Sunday night, and hasn't got as much, I guess, chatter, just because he was sort of a little bit more inflated at the start of the year. Darcy Jones and Tajwa Woden. So you're talking about Woden and Jones with job security. Do you think maybe Jake Rogers might be the pick with maybe a little bit better job security?
Sorry, who? Jake Rogers?
Yeah,
I've never heard of him.
Really?
Did he really?
Yeah.
I've been
I'll answer it. He's definitely got the best job security out of 3 of them. He was brilliant for Gold Coast. High draft pick. He's staying in that side. It's just probably whether he's going to score enough.
Yeah. Well, DC, how would you rank those 3 guys then? Is Rogers potentially at the top of the list, or?
Yeah, I'd probably have him at the top just for the job security. I mean, he's playing a similar role to Darcy Jones anyway. Probably have Woden second, playing off halfback, and then Jones last. Not because he wasn't good, but just because I'm not even sure he's playing this week.
Yeah. The other flag by Woden I saw today as well. Apparently, Jake Bowie might be back potentially this week, if not next week.
Marty Hall played in the VFL as well for the first game back from his broken thumb. So,
yeah. So that could be a bit risky with Woden as well. So I like Rogers. There. Just a human, Tim's. Do we tick off Marshall and Sharp to Sweet and Goulden? Gives me 355k to upgrade Dempsey to McRae next week. Tim, you're on mute.
Marshall and Sharp to who was it? Marshall and Sharp
to Sweet and Goulden. So he's going Marshall down to Sweet, and then he's going Sharp up to Goulden.
I think you want to hold off on that until you get more news later in the week. I'm not sure that you want to be jumping on Marshall just yet.
Yeah. Well, actually,
if he's out though, but if he plays, I mean, remember Marshall was still a 90-95 when he plays.
Yep. Cool.
DC, what do you think, mate?
I said on our pod during the week or last night that if Marshall plays, I'd be holding. I just think it's a little bit different to the Cherry one because there's a high chance that Marshall's, if not a top 2 ruck, then a top 3 ruck for sure. He had a poor game a couple of weeks ago, but I think we could put his score down on the weekend down to that knee knock. If he is named and is playing and they don't bring in another ruck, I'd have enough confidence that he should be okay. I'd probably hold in that circumstance. I think was the other in Goulden as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring in Goulden this week.
Yeah,
just with the weather that's forecast for Sydney.
Yeah, which sucks. As myself because I brought him in last week, so hopefully you can just.
It's not enough reason to trade him out or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not the week that you want to bring in a winger when they're expecting that much rain.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom Green would be the pick, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. That's part of the reason why I'm becoming more interested in it. Yeah.
Nathan Kroll, Bails, you signed Lairdy photo on your bedside table. It is not. It is on my desk at the moment. I will get it framed at some point, and it will probably sit somewhere up there. So, thanks to shout out to Lairdy. Getting coffee next week. What have we got here? Gareth Evans. That's before I get the AVO probably put out against me. Gareth Evans asked this one. DC, is McKercher a trade back in? So as a McKercher yourself, could you bring yourself to bring back in?
It's maybe a better option than Reed. But no, I don't have a lot of confidence in what North are doing at the moment. Clarko's clearly experimenting, from week to week within games, trying to work out what he's actually got to play with. Like their year's a write-off already. So he's effectively working out, who he's going to go forward with in this rebuild. And which positions they're going to make as their own. So, McKercher 2-3 weeks ago played as a mid. So there's no reason why he couldn't. I think when he came on as sub the other week, he played at half forward for a bit as well. So
yeah,
I can't remember which week it was, but he spent a bit of time at half forward. So yes, he was very good on the weekend. I think he will stay in that role for this week, but it doesn't mean he's staying there permanently. So, I wouldn't be bringing him back in personally.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. Nathan, Tim says, I'm still battling away as one of the coaches in the top 1,000 without Heaney. Would you chase him? And I guess with the lack of forward options, if you don't have him, if you've got the cash, are you happy to buy him still, or are you happy to maybe with the round 12 buy let it slide?
So my answer would normally be no, you don't chase him, but we do have a real lack of forward options. So, look, once again, I want to throw this out to DC, and I'm curious to hear what he thinks. I think you probably want to aim for upgrading your midfield, but you can't have too many bloody rookies in the forward line. If you haven't got Heaney, who have you got?
Yeah, I think that's bang on, isn't it? Like, what does your 6 forwards look like if you haven't got Heaney? And if you're bringing it forward in
Flanders and Powell,
you'd think so. Maybe they're. I mean, a lot of people that didn't start Heaney started Jackson instead. So maybe you've still got Jackson. If you're doing something like that and you're trading Jackson out anyway, it's not a massive jump to get up to Heaney. You're not entirely wrecking your team. It's just really a rookie downgrade on top of him. So, I think if you're in that sort of circumstance where you can get there easily enough without breaking the rest of your team, then I think you can do it. But yeah, I mean, it kind of goes against our philosophies of searching for that value. And if you're in the top 1,000, almost everyone around you is going to have him. So you're really just matching it with the crowd. But I don't see any respite coming anytime soon with the forwards. Like we don't have DPPs for a while. If anything, we're losing options with guys like Powell and Zorko switching roles. So, yeah, maybe just biting the bullet and bringing him in and joining the crowd is the way to go. But, yeah, it's a tricky one.
Yeah. Lisa's got this question, Tim. Marshall to English or Sanders to Jordan Sweet? So, obviously, everyone talked about Jordan Sweet this week, but Tim English has also had a couple of very strong weeks. So, would you go Marshall to English getting off of an injured player, or do you think Sanders to Sweet to keep that cash gen going?
Yeah, so once again, a bit the same as what we were talking about before. You don't really want to be getting off these players unless you know that they're not playing or they are injured. I mean, I do certainly like what the Ruck Llama is putting up at the moment. But was it an option between doing that trade or going, who was it, to Sanders to Sweet? Well, I certainly like the I certainly like going Sanders to Sweet. Yeah, what do you reckon? Do we reckon Bales that he's going to get a game this week or?
Sanders apparently played pretty well in the Magoos on the weekend. I don't know. It sounded. I don't know if you boys heard that.
I don't think they had a game, did they? Didn't they have a bye?
Well, someone said, "Oh no, sorry, maybe they played a practice match." But someone said there was some sort of game that he played in beforehand that maybe he played pretty well in. But
he absolutely belted the bye.
Something I'm doing this year. So I don't know if he because I don't know if you boys heard what Bevo said on I think it was like Twitter Space or something last week, the Dogs press conference, that he was saying that his preseason form was really good, but had dropped off to start the year, and that probably had a bit to do with the throwing the water bottle and stuff. So maybe he stays in the Magoos for a few weeks to maybe build a 2-3 week block in there. So yeah, I think Sanders to Sweet's probably the play, unless we get confirmation Marshall is going to be out, or maybe if Tom Campbell came in, that would be maybe a little bit nerve wracking there. Chris got this question.
Once again, I think even if because we didn't really address what would happen if Tom Campbell does come in. I mean, once again, I think we've seen Marshall. I mean, he used to play as a forward, remember, and he still used to average 95 or something along those lines. So, once again, if Tom Campbell does come in, I think I would be, I mean, I'm not an owner, but if I was, I think I would still be inclined to hold. He might only come back in for 1 week to support him for 1 week and then be back out of the side.
Yeah. DC?
They're playing North Melbourne. Like, who's he going to play on? Big and you on? Like, feels like, I reckon he's probably going to get a couple of marks against those really young and experienced North defenders. So, yeah, unless he misses, I still wouldn't be trading. Like, if you take out the injury component of it, and I know that's obviously a concern for people, but if you take it out, why would you trade Marshall to English? It's the most sideways trade in the world. So
people want to bring Marshall in a couple weeks ago.
Exactly. So I'm still of the mind with players of that caliber, unless they're on their deathbed, you don't trade them, or there's a drastic role change that you think there's no chance of flipping back. So yeah.
Chris got this one. DC. What do you got? What do you think of Dempsey to Darcy Jones and Fisher to Tom Green, providing Rosie plays? Which I don't think I've ever heard of a 6-day hamstring. That's definitely one new. And as a Crows fan, I was partly hoping Port would rest him for the week, but obviously we'll see how he pulls up. And I think that he is available, but Josh Carr did say this morning that he did sort of pass the fitness test, and he's no guarantee to play. He still may be rested on the short break. So just with that, Rosie. But yeah, Dempsey to Darcy Jones and Fisher to Green. DC, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, I've heard a few people say there's no such thing as a 1 week hamstring and stuff, but there's a couple of things on that he came back on the ground. If it was a serious 3-4 week hamstring, there's zero chance of him coming back on the ground. So it's obviously on the extreme minor end. But like all muscle strains are pretty much on a continuum. Like we say, hamstrings are 3 or 4 weeks. They're not really. A lot of them are your garden variety sort of hamstrings. But we have tendon tears and really extreme tears of hamstring muscles or any sort of muscle that can be 3-4 months. So just because a large proportion of them are 3 or 4 weeks doesn't mean they're all 3 or 4 weeks. You can just because they're basically like fibers, right? So if you're tearing a couple of fibers or 5% of the fibers in the muscle, you can kind of play without that being a major issue, as long as they think there's no chance of it becoming worse. Your typical 3-4 week, you're usually talking about like 50% of the fibers. And then if you get a full rupture where it sort of separates, that's when you're talking about surgery and months off. So, yeah, you're right. A 1 week is unusual, but they're not unheard of. Like Ollie Wines, I think, had one a few weeks back. I think a few years ago we saw Paddy Cripps have one as well. So, sorry, I went on a medical sidebar there. What was the actual question?
And then, he did run off as well. I know you said he came back on and he came back off. So, we'll have to see how it goes. But with the trades, it was Ollie Dempsey down to Darcy Jones and Fisher up to Tom Green.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe think about a different rookie instead of Jones would be the only thing, but I like the basic structure of the trade.
Yeah, and on Rosie though, if he does miss this week, are you still are you holding because it sounds like if he doesn't play this week, he'll be playing next week?
Yeah, no, for sure. If it's this minor that they're considering playing him this week, then he should be back for the second week unless he has a setback. So yeah, be holding.
Yeah. Tim, I actually asked this one: Jack McRae, your favourite player, or Liam Baker? Who are you picking out of those two?
I think I'd be going Jack McRae. I think Liam.
Hopper's out again, obviously with another hamstring injury. So
yeah. I just really don't like what Richmond are putting up. I think you probably want to go safety in numbers, probably with McRae.
Yeah. I'm still keen on McRae. He's not playing the Libba role, so Libba will just come in for Ed Richards' role. I'm assuming Richards will just go back to half back or something. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens when Libba does come back. But I think I'm McRae as well. I don't mind Baker though as an option. Jad is asking about Rowell as an option. DC, what are your thoughts on Matt Rowell as an option? I guess the TIO game's coming up will probably suit a guy like Matt Rowell.
Yeah, I don't hate it. He's not at the top of my list of premium mid options, but has looked good this year, I think, in most of the games I've seen him play. I'd actually probably have his teammate Tuke ahead of him, though. I think he's been pretty consistent. It looks like he's going to have a big game at some point soon. So, yeah, don't hate it, but I'd probably prefer other options.
Yeah, I'd agree. Ben McCulloch's got this question. Tim, Dawson or Sarong?
Man, we've got to separate runs now. Price Dawson is 966, so they're like literally $9,000 apart.
Yeah.
What are their runs like? What's Adelaide run like, Bails? You know that.
Adelaide's run
Adelaide this week.
Yeah, Port this week.
Sarong's got Richmond this week. I think you'd have to go Sarong with Richmond this week, wouldn't you?
I'm Sarong as well. I'd love to say Dawson, but yeah, Sarong, that round 13 buy I think is going to be really valuable. So I'd be going with him. But Dawson does have a run, and I'm sure DC's also looked at this as a fellow owner of Dawson. They've got a 4-week stretch coming up in a couple of weeks where they go Collingwood at the G, West Coast, Hawthorn, and Richmond. So good 4-week stretch right before their bye. So Dawson is still a very good option, but yeah, I think I'd be going with Sarong there. We have got a super chat from Exception, so thank you very much. That $3 super chat there. He said, wait a week on Dawson because of a tough matchup. I'd still be happy to. I'd still be happy to launch in Dawson this week. I think I like Sarong.
It's one of those games he could go big.
Yeah, well, he's hasn't had a bad history against Port. I think he's had a couple of decent games, but Port can be restrictive. So yeah, you can
probably
wait
more
a week.
Concerned about the fact that it's the first game of the round. It's Thursday night, so you won't know full teams for Sunday yet. So if you've got any concerns for those games, then maybe you want to hold off on your trade. But yeah, I think Dawson's looked pretty good the last couple of weeks. Still got maybe some minor concerns about his role getting flicked around at times, but I think he should be solid this week from a points point of view anyway.
Yeah, the thing I liked with his role on the weekend was when he was playing forward, he was playing as the midfield would come up to the stoppage. So, and that would have been a 140 on the weekend if it wasn't for that resting, which was smart by the Crows on a short break. But as a Dawson, I was hoping it was going to be a big score. Trevor Smith, thoughts on Curtin? I think all of us can agree here and say I think we wait a week on Dan Curtin. I'm very happy as a Crows supporter that he's coming in. Looking forward to seeing what he does, but I'd be waiting 1 week on him to see how he goes. Angus McGregor, DC, rank Caldwell, Dylan Moore, and Liam Baker.
These are hard with the forwards. It's like trying to pick the one you hate the least. No, that's probably a bit harsh. I think they're all okay options, but none of them really get me excited. And I can't say with any confidence that they're going to average 85, 90. Like, yeah, even guys like McRae, like I bought him in a couple of weeks ago, but I don't have 100% confidence in that trade. I just think he's probably a bit safer at his price than a few of the others. So I'd almost land on just go with the cheaper one or the one that you think has the best run. Caldwell, maybe a few question marks there with Setterfield and Perkins and stuff almost about to come back. They seem to have a lot of guys going through that midfield rotation now, so I could see games where he gets pushed out, as he kind of did in the Anzac Day game. So maybe a few little flags there for him. Baker I like with the injuries they've got. And then more in years gone past, I would have said probably him clearly, but the Hawks are pretty poor at the moment. So I've just got concerns when they're getting belted if he's going to be able to score.
Yeah. Prices of them, you've got Caldwell is 778, Baker is 751, and Dylan Moore is 707. So they're sort of really like within 100K, within 70 odd K of each other. So I like Baker. I think Baker's, I would like him, I think, the most out of those three. But as DC said, they're all much of muchness in a way. What do we got here? Ben D'Agostino, are we trading Tom Power, Tim? So I think this probably comes down to if you don't have Heaney or Flanders, you could, but if not, you probably hold to see if the role goes back and if especially if Phillips gets dropped. Tim?
You were asking me, mate. Sorry. Look, I'm inclined to give him another week. I was actually just going to see when North Melbourne plays Saturday, Arvo, which is a little bit into the round. Yeah, look, I mean, I'm inclined to give him another go and see what happens, providing he's not named sub, which I can't see that happening. And I can't see him being omitted from the team either. So, yeah, I'm inclined to sit and watch one more week, and I imagine maybe you've got other issues in your side that you can deal with.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other components on that as well. The first one is the ownership. If you're anywhere towards the top in the rankings, and I kind of mean even sort of top 10, 15,000, chances are that a huge amount of people around you are going to have him as well. Some people might jump off, but I would say the majority are probably going to watch for another week. So there is some safety in numbers there. And the other factor, which I'm not sure whether a lot of people have picked up on yet, is Jai Simpkins named in the injury list for North Melbourne. So he's a test for a bit of a quad tweak. So it'll be interesting if he doesn't play. I think that really helps Powell's position in the team as well, because it was probably Simpkin almost more than Phillips that took his role.
Yeah. And the other thing I probably should mention as well is speaking to my mate who's a North fan as well, saying that the only reason Phillips is in the side was because Eddie Ford was out. So he expects Ford to come back in and Phillips would be out. So, and then if Simpkins out, then maybe Phillips holds his spot. But that could be obviously good news for Tom Power. Prison Mike's got this one. Who's getting Fraser Garrigan this week? That is one hell of a throwback.
Assuming he's meaning Jake Waterman, is he?
Potentially.
I think he is, yeah.
It's his son.
So, what are your thoughts on Waterman DC? Lack of forward options. He's been pretty good, very, very good.
He's been awesome. Yeah. No, he's not a fantasy option, but yeah, he's been terrific as an Eagles supporter over the last few weeks watching him play.
Yeah, if he's on your waves in draft, 100% pick him up.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got a couple more here before we wrap up. Leandre Pandoulis. I hope I've got that correct. Apologies if I have not. Tim, Comben to Dacos and Jackson to Sweet at R3. What are your thoughts on those?
Boom. Tick it off. Easy.
Yeah. I'd agree as well. No. Thoughts on Oliver? I'd probably say your name. No. He's probably correct on Oliver for the time being. I'd wait to see. We got to see a 4-core effort for him first before we really look at him. But he's going to get very, very cheap. Could even have a 6 in front of him. So he will no doubt potentially be not no doubt. He potentially will be a good option for us to consider soon, but not yet.
Swapped him from Matt Roberts or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Grind Myers, Joel Helmore's got this question, DC. What are your thoughts on Grind Myers as an option? We talked about a few of those other options. What are your thoughts on Grind Myers or Messi?
Throw him in the same bucket. Yeah, which one do you hate the least? I mean, he's a very good footballer, but they're not the sort of roles that we traditionally like to pick in fantasy. He's been very consistent, but yeah, I'm not sure he's going to have the ceiling to really hurt the people around you that don't have him, particularly now at his price. I I think you can get better upgrades in your team than going for someone like that at the moment at his price.
Yep. Tim, Kay's got this question. Trading Bonner, question mark. What are your thoughts on Bonner? I guess this would come down to if he's in the team or not, because I did flag that Junior Webster's back this week. I would not be shocked with a few of the turnovers that Bonner had again on the weekend that maybe Ross just goes, we've got Sinclair and Nasai there, but maybe they want to play Sinclair in the midfield more. So if Bonner is in the team this week, would you still consider trading him if he gets the upgrade you want?
Yeah, look, I think it's getting off. I mean, he's almost peaked out in price. Probably got a little bit more to go. Obviously, there are some concerns about his job security. He does have a good run of North and Hawthorn over the next 2 weeks. So if he's in the side, I would be holding him if he can. But if he gets the upgrade that he wants, I have no problems with getting off these kind of mid prices and getting the primo that you want.
Yep. Lockie Russell's got this one. DC, trade at Sherry or Grundy first? I'm assuming that would be to a suite. Who's going first out of those two?
Grundy, I think he's been way more inconsistent. So yeah, you don't want someone that's capable of putting up 50s, and he got a 70 on the weekend, but he got 15 points or something in about the last 40 seconds. So yeah, I just think Cherry's been more consistent. Having said that, in the wet this week, I could see Grundy going pretty well because there's going to be a lot of stoppages, I would expect. So yeah, I'd probably still trade Grundy, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd agree as well. Jad's got this question. Tim, thoughts on bringing in Nat Five, who looked fantastic on Saturday night as well. Could you bring him in with the lack of options?
No, I don't think so. Once again, I think your focus wants to be on upgrading to the kind of primos that you want. I mean, like we talked about Bond earlier, not maybe looking super great, but he's priced at $920,000. You've got, once again, Goulden, maybe not the best matchup this week, but what is he, $940,000? You've got Tom Green at the same price as Errol Goulden. I rather than taking these speculative picks, I think you'd be better off holding on to players like an Ollie Dempsey or, people that have still got a Harley Reid. Even if these rookies have kind of topped out in terms of their break-evens, they're still offering a little bit of value in terms of their price stats. Rather than bringing someone like a Nat Fife in, I just think that's a nothing trade.
Yep. Twin Towers has got this one. DC Green, Sarong, Goulden. So, mate, who would you be picking, Green or Sarong? Because I know you just said Goulden's not the one.
Yeah, not Goulden. Goulden this week is clearly third option in my mind. The other two are the two I'm probably tossing up most with this week. So, at the moment, I have Green in my team. I had Sarong in my team yesterday. So, yeah, I think either one of those, you're not going to go that wrong. Green's a little bit cheaper, but he's obviously got the round 12 bye. Sarong has the advantage of the bye. Yeah, but the only minor concern I have with Sarong is that since that massive round one game, he's averaging about 105, I think, 106 since round one. And he's priced at 110. His time on ground has maybe dipped a little bit. I think part of that is the fact that they've got now Young and Fife rotating through there as well. They don't need him playing 85% plus time on ground. And he's been a little bit handball happy. So... But outside of that, he's obviously a gun. He's super consistent. He's going to average anywhere between 106, 107 and 115, I would say. So if you think he can average 115, brilliant pick. If you think he's maybe more around that 106, 107, then maybe go someone like Green is a touch more value.
Yep. Yeah, no, I like those two as well. Tough one to pick between those two. And we will end off on this question here from Prison Mike, another funny one, and two West Coast fans that I'm chatting to. How many points would David Wirapunda average in today's fantasy? So, Tim, how many points would he average, do you reckon?
I have no idea. I can't even remember what sort of stats he used to get as a player.
I'm trying to remember whether I don't think he would have been super high. He was sort of more your low to mid 20s kind of guy, I reckon. He was very classy, but he didn't get a lot of cheap ball from memory. So yeah, he was a great player though, great to watch.
Yeah. No, one of
And
my favourites
does some
growing up.
fantastic work with the Wirrapunda Foundation as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Actually, we'll do one more because I like this one here. Brendan's just put this one in here, and I'll get both your thoughts on this, boys. Took or Darcy Parish? So, Tim, first for you, who would you be going out of Took and Darcy Parish?
I have an aversion to Darcy Parish, so I think I'd be leaning towards Took before even really looking into it in too much detail. Once again, price.
It's about 80.
There is a bit of a price
difference.
Yeah.
And then what's the run? Oh,
It's 55k
price
difference.
Yeah. And then Essendon got West Coast this week. But, I mean, have we seen enough from Parish to really...
He looked good on the weekend.
Took's been relative. Yeah, okay. That was... Well, it wasn't the weekend. It was Anzac Day.
Yeah. Socks were down as well, which I know Selwyn Zay were talking about as well. That might be a factor. But...
Yeah. Who would you go, Bales? We haven't asked you many questions today.
I think I'd feel safer with Took. I know that Parish has got a good run. The thing that worries me with Parish is the 68% game time. I don't know. I want to see that up in the mid-70s at least first before I go Parish. He's still at a cheap enough price. If he goes big again this week, you can jump on him next week. I think Took, I guess I don't know. I don't know if Took's got that 110 plus like sort of average in him.
Yeah.
I think he's more the 105. But Took's the sort of guy though that you can bring in now, hold him for 4 weeks, and once you've upgraded all your players, if he's like your M8 and then you upgrade season, you go him to another premium. I don't mind that. So I'd probably go Took, I think, but I don't mind Parish. He's still on my watch list. DC.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the safest pick there for sure is Took. As you said, that 68% time on ground, that's way, way lower than what he was last year, Darcy Parish. So, he's sort of, I think it was around the 80% last year. This year, his time on ground's actually decreased every game he's played, which is a bit of a concern. They've still got Setterfield, Perkins to come back. They've played Stringer in the midfield on the weekend. I can only see there being more options to rotate through the middle. So maybe they've had a bit of a switch in their philosophies about rotation, because Caldwell's time on ground's obviously been quite low. The one outlier really in the midfield has been Merritt. So if they're going to continue with that and they're going to rotate the rest of the mids on and off a lot, I can't see Parish going at sort of 105 like he did last year. I think he's more likely to be sort of 100 or below.
Yeah. All I can say with these two is if you have got 4K more and you do not have Nick Dacos, I'd be going there. So that would be one thing I'd be looking at. So, but now, boys, I think we'll wrap it up there. Answer plenty of questions. If you guys need questions to answer, me and Tim will be live at the usual time on Friday for our pre-lockout chat at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Western Standard Time. So make sure you guys tune into that. But DC, mate, thank you very much for coming on and chatting some fantasy with us, answering Bill's questions. Where can the people find you across the socials and the HatChat podcast?
No worries. Thanks for having me on again, guys. Always good to chat. You can find me at DC Caterpillars, and you can find the podcast at HatChat AFL and obviously on all the streaming platforms as well. Yep. And tomorrow, HatChat Live? HatChat Live will be back after a week off last week, obviously with the Wednesday night game. So I'm sure we'll answer a lot of simpler questions tomorrow night as well. Looking forward to that tomorrow night as well. Tim, anything you want to say to listeners before we wrap it up? No, just best of luck with your research this week. Beautiful. And you can find Tim at TimGuestAU and myself at Bails DT. But beautiful. Thanks everyone for tuning in. My trade talk video will be up tomorrow at 5 p.m. East if you guys want to tune into that. Thanks guys for tuning in, and all those people that send in their questions and tune in live. Thank you very much for that. And if you're listening to the podcast on Replay on Spotify or Apple, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. That would be very much appreciated. We'll chat to you guys on Friday for the pre-lockout chat. So thanks guys. Catch you then. See ya.